Hey, hi, hello, good day. I don't know what that means. Okay, so here's the deal. I kind of felt a little bit of FOMO for bookmas, and I asked you guys on my TikTok if y'all wanted to see me do bookmas for the last like how many ever days of December, and it was an overwhelming yes. And I think today is day one, something like that, and we're just gonna do a Q&A. Okay, I have quite a few questions that we're gonna get through, we're gonna talk through. I'm super excited. Just for like background, I was asking these questions on my TikTok. So all the questions that I have for this video all came from my TikTok. If you guys haven't seen me, go follow me on there. I'm also on Instagram, and of course, if you're on TikTok, subscribe here. But yeah, we're literally just gonna go through and like answer these questions and have that be that and like enjoy ourselves. Does that make sense? Are we cool? Is that good? Is that good? Okay, good. Number one is how many books do I read in a month? And here's the thing, it varies. It very much varies because some months I'll read like 5 books, some months I read 15. So literally like that's kind of my range. It's in between 5 and 15 books a month. I think I'm on like number 7 or 8 of December. So if that gives you any indication, I do get this question quite a bit. And truth be told, I'm a fairly quick reader. However, I get into modes where like I literally do not want to pick up a book. So like, could I read like probably 20 books a month? I probably could, because I waste half the month not reading. Next is, what was your favorite book as a kid? And I'll say I have 2 answers for this question. My favorite book when I was a kid, it was like a series, but it was I have to go back and find this series because it was a series about like these like ghost kids almost. I don't know what, oh my gosh, I'm not explaining this. But then as more of like, as a young reader, but like not necessarily a kid, more of like I guess kind of a kid. I was like 12 or 13. Divergent, that whole trilogy was my favorite trilogy of all time. It's still my favorite trilogy of all time. I will die on this hill. I freaking love those books. And listen to me so closely, okay? Veronica Roth, if you're watching this for whatever reason, okay? If somehow magically you are watching this, I have beef with you, okay? I simultaneously love you and want to fight you. Like, I love you, but like, why would you do that to me? You know what the worst part about this is? I was listening to an interview about Veronica talking about how she wanted to end the series, and that was the first thing she knew. You mean to tell me you hated us so much? That was the first thing you came up with? Fighting words. What is my book talk setup when filming videos? Okay, to be so honest with you, it's literally the most simple setup ever. I take my phone, okay, hold on. I'll move this so I can actually show you. My desk is such a mess. I literally take my phone, put it on my vanity, and that's it. So like here's the setup. You seen that? That is what I see. I put it in the middle, kind of like right about there. That is my setup while filming videos. So it's really nothing special. Sometimes I'll like get crazy and I'll move around. Where did you get your glasses? I got my glasses from Pair Eyewear. I did a campaign with them for December actually, and they sent me these. They're the Soto frames with little tortoise top frames. Love these guys. What are your go-to trip books? Like the books you can just sit and read forever almost. P.S. Love your videos. P.S. I love you. And my go-to trip book is probably, I think the books that I've read the most actually are The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, that trilogy by Michelle Hodkin. And again, another author I have beef with, because what do you mean that third Noah book has not come out yet? Like, what do you mean you have not come out with that yet? I want to fight. What is your favorite dark romance book? Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not a huge dark romance girly, okay? Like, I like dark romance. I'm getting into dark romance more, but it's not my favorite thing ever in the world to read. And so I think Once You're Mine by Morgan Bridges, the author reached out to me and asked me if she could send it to me, like for me to review or whatever. And I wasn't like keen on taking it because I'm not a huge dark romance person, but I said yes. And literally it was one of my favorites of the year. So I'm super happy that I did. I absolutely love it. Top 5 favorite fantasy books of all time. The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, in no particular order, but we're here. Throne of Glass, acatar, and I'll say Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Those are all really good ones. Do you have any advice for starting a bookstagram/book talk for the first time? Now, I get this question a lot, and I've never wanted to answer because I never want it to sound like I have all the answers, because I really don't. A lot of this stuff is just experimental, very much experimental, so I'm constantly trying to find new things that work and whatever. But I'll say one is the hardest video to post is the first one. That's literally, it's true for every single account that I start. And once you do that, it gets a lot easier to post. Two, I think it would be to have a consistent posting schedule that's good for your schedule. So like, I will say that I did quite a bit of research on how to grow social media platforms. And for TikTok specifically, you're supposed to post 3 to 4 times a day for the algorithm to like pick it up consistently. That definitely did work for me. I was posting consistently 3 to 4 times a day, sometimes 5 times a day for months before I started to really pop off on TikTok. And I'm still like, in the grand scheme of things, not very big on TikTok, but find a consistent posting schedule and post, and be okay with one, your videos not being very good to start. It takes a really special person, and I honestly, like, I think it takes a gift for you to come out of the gate posting really good videos. Some people are great at it. I am not. So if you go back and you scroll down to like the beginning of my Instagram page, even like the first YouTube video I posted, like it's not very good, but you have to start somewhere, and you learn and you grow as you go, and that's that. And then I would also say, if you're worried about like your friends and family seeing it, all it takes is a couple of them to see it for that whole like worry to wear off. I work with kids. I was terrified of them seeing it. After they did, I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. You do you, and you have fun doing it, because this community specifically, because this is the one that I'm in that I could tell you about, is an amazing one. People are generally super supportive, and yeah, it's an awesome place to be a part of. So I would just say, keep going. Do it, and then keep going. If you can remember, what was the first series you read, childhood counts, and your most recent series, and then the differences / the similarities. The first series that I read, it was that series, I can't even remember like really what it was, but I remember like the feeling that I had while reading it, and I remember like some pictures. I need to go back and find it. And then the most recent series that I have finished, I really don't finish a lot of series, so I think the last series that I finished was actually the Hush Hush series, and there really aren't a whole lot of similarities there. Hush Hush is about a fallen angel who has to like watch over this girl, and and they end up like dating. Honestly, those books feel like a fever dream, but like in the best way possible. Yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot about the first series that I read, only that I read them. Have you read acatar? And if you have, would you recommend it to somebody who doesn't necessarily like fae? Okay, so for acatar, honestly, if you don't like fae, probably not. I would say go to Throne of Glass. But if you're reading for romance, acatar is a really good series. It's it's a romantasy as opposed to a fantasy with romance, whereas Throne of Glass is fantasy with romance. So I would say, like, if you're doing it for the romance, then acatar is a good one. But if you're not doing it for the romance and you're doing it for the fantasy elements, probably not. What are your thoughts on the Binding 13 series? I haven't read the whole series. Like I said, I'm a serial series starter and a serial series DNFer, and literally not even in the truest form of DNF, meaning just like I won't pick up the second book right away. I could love the first book, I could give it a 5 stars, and I will not pick up the second book until like months and months, maybe years later. So I would say after reading the first one, absolutely. I got like 50 pages into the second one. I was loving that one too. I just couldn't do it for whatever reason. So I would literally say absolutely, it's definitely worth reading. I would recommend it. I love it. I just haven't read the series yet, but I know that she's coming out with like 2 books. It's a duet for each couple. So I think she's gonna have like 6 books out or something like that. Favorite author. My favorite author is Cassandra Clare, and I say that because I have read more books by her than I have any other author. I have read more books by Cassandra Clare than any author that are on my shelves right now. And yeah, so I would categorize her as my favorite author. I genuinely love her writing, so that is not an unfair assessment. It is what it is. Favorite fantasy world and why? Okay, probably The Mortal Instruments, a Cassandra Clare fantasy world. Because it's not so far into fantasy that like all the rules are different. It's more like an urban fantasy where there are other worlds that you can go to. But for the most part, it's set in our world. Is that fantasy? Or is that like magical realism? I don't know. I'm gonna be safe and say like fantasy, probably Throne of Glass, maybe? Probably Throne of Glass. If you could read a book for the very first time, which one would it be? Honestly, City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. No, City of Heavenly Fire. Honestly, this is just turning into a Cassandra Clare love video. Do you think there is something like fast fashion but with books, like people overbuying books but they're not even going to read and making you feel like you should too? So I feel like there's two different questions there. The first one, people just buying books without reading them, so they end up being like books for aesthetics, which, to be honest with you, I don't really have an issue with it, because one, you're keeping books in print that way. The more books you buy, the more demand there is for them, so the more that they're going to keep printing them. Reading for a long time, printing books was a dying platform. It was just not going very well. So now that like there's this big bump in people buying books, I think that's great. Whether or not you read them is none of my business. Okay, just keep the books being printed. And then the social pressures of feeling like you have to have a bunch of books too. I feel like that's kind of just like human nature. Like, you see somebody with a lot of what you have a few of, and it makes you feel like you should have a lot. I don't necessarily think that's anybody's fault. I just think that, you know, it is what it is. And like, I obviously have quite a few books. I don't have the most books out there. There are quite a few people that have more than me. But because books are something that you can collect, because they're all so different, I don't know. I've never really given that much thought, nor do I have any issues with it. What made you start Book Talk? Okay. So part of it was my mom pushing me to do it. And then another part of it was I've always loved content creating. I took film in school, and I've always loved like being in front of a camera and talking and doing the editing and all that stuff. I've genuinely loved it. And so, you know, I got to a point in my life where I have to make something a career. And I was a tennis coach. I mean, I still am a tennis coach, and that is definitely something that I want to continue doing. I sat down one day and I had to ask myself, like, what is it that I want to do? Like, if I had the choice to do something, what would it be? And it was this. And so I started on Book Talk specifically because it was a more palatable way to start. I can start it on my phone. It's way easier to get in contact with people and to connect with people. Part of it was my mom just like pushing me to do it, and you know, because she was like, dude, if I was your age, I would have done it. So I did, and I haven't looked back since, and I've been in love with doing it, and I would not imagine myself doing anything else. Need to hear all about your boyfriend. So this is definitely a question with a long, or not really a question, but like a long answer. But so Tyler and I met at Wild West. I was 19, he was 20, he had just turned 20. And he came up and asked me to dance. He asked me to dance to Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn. If y'all haven't heard that song, it's a beautiful, wonderful song. I love it. Yeah, I remember he asked me to dance a couple of times that night, and I didn't know who his friends were. Like, he was there with a group of friends, and I was so intimidated to go and talk to them. I came with like my little group of girls, and yeah, and then we saw each other out a couple of nights after that, and he eventually introduced me to his friend group, and I got to meet all of them, and then they adopted me into their friend group, and then at one point we took some time apart just to kind of like figure out all of our stuff. And I love him dearly, and I could not imagine my life being with any other person. So I'm not gonna keep getting sappy, because if I do, I'll cry. Next question now. Advice on building a following. I would say consistency is key, one, and then also trying to connect with as many people as you can. I know a big thing for me when I first started was I didn't want it to be like this almost like faceless page where it was just like me posting and not getting to know any of the people that whether followed me or I was following, just like building connections with people. And so I waited a little bit to like start going live on TikTok, just because honestly I was terrified to do it at first, and then I found that was actually the easiest way and the biggest way. There are certain times that, you know, posts tend to do better just depending on your following, and I would definitely advise posting then. But yeah. What book made you fall in love with reading? Divergent by Veronica Roth. I cannot say enough good things about that trilogy. I still want to fight you, Veronica Roth. What is your favorite book quote? I have a couple. I have the ones that are tattooed on me, but my favorite one, and the one that has impacted me most in my life, is Fear Doesn't Shut You Down, It Wakes You Up by Veronica Roth from Divergent. What do you do for work? I'm a tennis coach. I coach kids from like, I think my youngest right now is 8 and my oldest is like 17, almost 18. so a wide range. I get to yell at kids for a living. When did you start reading books? I've been reading for as long as I can remember. Like I said, I started with like Magic Tree House, Flat Stanley, Judy Blume, like all those way back in like first, second, and third grade. But I didn't start like avid reading till I was, I think, 11 or 12. So around 2011, 2012. And I have not looked back since. I mean, obviously, we're here. Hello.
Hello.
You can come in.
Are you on live?
No. I'm filming a video though. Hello. You want to come say hi to the video? They were asking.
That's your Christmas present. One of them. For your TikTok.
Tyler, what? No, I can't take this.
Too bad.
Tyler.
Too bad. And set that mug up. I love you.
I
You're
love
welcome.
you too. Thank you. What? You're gonna make me cry.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Not much.
Okay, and then last one is, what was your first book ever and how many books a week do you read? Okay, to be so honest with you, I have no idea what my first book was. No, that's false. It was the first Magic Tree House book. That's the first book that I remember reading. Yeah, that was the first book that I ever read. Those books are honestly such a fever dream. He hates when I say that. Oh, and then I read, okay, really it depends on if I'm reading for a video or if I'm reading like just mood reads. Generally, it's about 3 to 4 books a week. Sometimes it's less than that if I'm super busy. Sometimes it's more if I don't have a lot going on. It's around there. But yeah, that is going to be it. I think this is what, day 1 of Bookmas. So thank you guys for asking questions. That was really fun. Probably do another one in like, I don't know, a couple months, a year, whenever. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check the description for all my links for me on other places on the internet if y'all want more of my face, which is crazy. Thanks for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.